Okay, we're in the middle of the sugi of Yochsin and Rabta Ayin Beis Amid Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Ayin Beis Amid Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Panrabanan. Ger Noisem Amzeres. Diver Reb Yosi. A ger is permitted to marry a mamzeres. These are the words of Reb Yosi. Let's see Rashi right away. 5 lines from the bottom. Ger Noisem Amzeres. Tikasavar. Reb Yosi is of the opinion Kahal Gerim Lo Ikri Kahal. By mamzer, it says, "Layavai mamzer b'kahal Hashem." So if a ger is not kahal Hashem, you're permitted to marry a mamzer. Again, layavai mamzer b'kahal Hashem, but a ger is not considered kahal. And however, the vavlad mamzer, the vlad will be a mamzer. The chsiv loy, it says loy. We saw this earlier. You go after the besul. So even though a ger is permitted to marry a mamzer, it's not going to be mitahar the kid. The kid will be a mamzer. The only way to retire the kid is to marry an eved, and then the child will be an eved and be retire the eved, right? That's what we saw. Reb Tarfin's Chiddush. However, Reb Yehuda is of the opinion, ger lo yisam amzeres, because he holds that kahal gerim is ikri kahal. He's of the opinion that kahal gerim ikri kahal, and therefore you should not marry mamzeres. However, even though a ger can marry mamzeres, echad ger, echad eved meshuchrer, v'chalol, mutarim b'kohenes is permitted with the kohenes. Just 1 second. I just
check there.
Okay. Anyway,
No.
so we know that.
Hold up for a second. I noticed in the
Okay, we know that a kohen can't marry a giyaris, a kohen can't marry a chalol, a kohen can't marry mamzer, can marry an evan meshuchrer. So conversely, however, a female, a bas kohen could, and that's what we're saying right now. Echad ger, echad evan meshuchrer, the chalol mutarim de kohenes. They're permitted to go ahead and marry kohenes. My time with the okay, that's the reason. So no, it's even though it's a separate din. That din, and the Gemara will discuss it. So we have right now we have machloikas between Reb Yosi and Reb Yehuda, whether a ger can marry a mamzeres or not. According to Reb Yosi, you could because it's not considered kahal. According to Reb Yehuda, you can't because it's considered kahal. The next piece of Gemara would be difficult if not for the following chart. I sent it out. I can post it over here and take a look at it. Gemara is going to be very, very geschmack. With this chart, the Gemara will go very, very well. Okay. Okay, so we have over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times it says the word kahal. It says la yava mamza b'kal Hashem. It says gam dar asiri la yava la b'kal Hashem. It says la yava amoini umayavi b'kal Hashem. It says gam dar asiri la yava lahem b'kal Hashem. Then it says dar shlishi by mitzri yava l'kal Hashem. So it says 5 times kahal. Now, according to Rabbi Yosi, the next column, what is those 5 things used for? So Rabbi Yosi says a ger is mutter to marry giyaris. Going down the line, one kal is to say to asra mamza to a kayin. One is asra mamza to a levi. One is asra mamza to Yisrael, and one is to go ahead and mata mamza l'shtuke, and one is lahata shtuke b'Yisrael. So this is you have 5. Memela, you don't have 1 extra to teach me that a ger is called a kahal. Going down it again. We know 1 for the kohen, 1 for the Levi, 1 for the Yisrael, 1 to matter a mamza to marry a shtuki. That means the mother is, who the father is, and 1 to matter a shtuki from marrying a Yisrael. That it's what that shtuki can marry Yisrael. Memela, you don't have a kahal to say that a ger is considered kahal, and mela it's mutter. The next column, this is Rabbi Yehuda going across the top. According to Rabbi Yehuda, a ger is asur b'mamzeres. There are 3 ways to explain the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Doc, we're on your phone on that. So there are 3 ways to explain the shita of Rabbi Yehuda why a ger is asur to marry mamzeres. And the one you say that we have to know, fellas, is that obviously Rabbi Yehuda has the word kahal apply extra to use for a ger. In other words, a ger is called kahal. Layove mamza b'kal Hashem. The mela a ger cannot marry a mamza. Can marry a mamzeres. Good. Now, how does he figure the 5? Again, the first one, it's going to ask both kohen v'levi. You don't need a separate one for Kohen and Levi as Rabbi Yossi decided. In other words, the first that's the key, guys, because now you got an extra one. Once you have Kohen and Levi combined on one kahal, that gives you an extra kahal. So going down the line, less Mamza Yisrael, again, lahata Mamza L'shtuke, lahata Shtuke B'Yisrael, and finally what? Lesser ger to mamzera. So he would mata mamzer to the shtuke, and mata, he agrees with all that, and he has an extra, since he used one kahal combined, Kohen v'Levi, he has what? One to aser a mamzeres, right there, that one. So that's the key. A second way of explaining again, Rabbi Yehuda is going to have a kahal extra to us mamzeres, is the first one is lahatar mamzer shtuke v'shtuke Yisrael. We can combine the two. In other words, Tamata, Mamza marrying a Shtuke and a Shtuke Yisrael, one Kahal does that. Therefore, he has one Kahal for now a Kohen, one for Levi, one to Asa Mamza Yisrael, and since he has an extra Kahal, because he can bind the Shtuke laws, you have one Le'esa Ger B'Mamzeres. The third pshat is exactly the same as the first. In other words, you take as Rabbi Yossi, guys, look at going across the line. Rabbi Yossi says the first one's less than Mamza L'Kohen. He says it's less than Mamza L'Kohen. Right? The lesser Mamza Yisrael, Go. So therefore, the question is: so where's his extra kahal? If he's going to use the same as Rabbi Yossi, the answer is he's got another pasuk. Hakahol chuka achas lochem vilager. It says hakahol and vilager. It says ger is kol kahal. So if ger is kol kahal, he has that to aser. Then it would be aser. Those are the three ways to explain the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gemara will go very, very glad based upon this chart. The Gemara will go very glad based upon this chart. It won't be just a bunch of words, okay? So let's see it inside. My time with Rabbi Yossi, we're at the bottom of Ayin Beis. My time with Rabbi Yossi, Chamisha Kahal Ksiv. It says 5 times in the Torah, it says Kahal. Chamisha Kahal Ksiv. On top, Chad Kahanim 1, Chad Leviim 2, Chad Yisraelim 3, Chad Mishrei Mamze B'Shtuki, that a Mamze can marry a Shtuki. Again, a Shtuki you don't know the father is. And 5, Chad Mishrei Shtuki B'Yisrael, to marry the Shtuki can marry Yisrael. Now, Kahal Gerim Lo Yakri Kahal. We don't have any Kahal extra to Asa the Ger. So Memela, it's Mutta. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda, he's going to have an extra. Where's he going to have extra? Kahanim v'Leviim Mechat Kahal Nafki. He's going to learn a Kahanim Leviim from one Kahal. Once he learns that one Kahal, now he's going to have an extra one to call Ger Kahal. Yasalei LeKahal Gerin. Viba is saying this is the second shot. Again, he's going to put the Shtuki laws together. Hachanami Trei Kahali Ninu. Mamza B'Shtuki B'Yisrael Mechat Kahal Nafka. And then therefore, Layava Mamza B'Kal Hashem Mamza Vadai. Guys, this is important. Layava Mamza. Why can a Mamza marry a Shtuki? Layava Mamza B'Kal Hashem Mamza Vadai Hu de Layavai. A Mamza Safik Yavai. Therefore, a Shtuki can marry Yisrael. Guys, a Shtuki is a Safik Mamza. We don't know who the father is. Just like Shaza. So you can call him daddy. You go, shh. Good. So now, who is Asal Kal Hashem? Only a Mamza Vadai. But if you're a Safik Mamza, like a Shtuki, you can marry Yisrael. That you're permitted to come to Kal. Next halacha. Safik Yavai Bekal Vadai Hudla Yavai. Bekahal Safik Yavai. Bekahal Safik. A Yisrael, right? A Mamza can't marry into a Vadai Kahal, but he could marry into a Safik Kahal. Guys, a Mamza can't marry into a Vadai Kahal Yisrael. He could marry into a Safik Kahal, the Shtuki. So therefore, a Mamza can marry what? A Shtuki. Okay, and now you had an extra, because you use that as one, and you have an extra what? A ger extra to call that ger is called kahal, and therefore a ger can't marry a mamza. V'ba yisema hani mili trei kali ninu. Okay, meaning you're right. They're two kahal. The kohanim leviim are two kahal, and shtukim are two kahal. So memela, it's going to be the same as Rabbi Yossi. You didn't have anything extra. The time of Rabbi Yehuda mehacha, he has another pasuk. Hakahol chuka achas lachem vilager, right? Hagar. So we said hakahol ger. A ger is called a kahal. If a ger is called kahal from that pasuk, then you can't marry a mamza. How are we doing? It was very good, right? It set it up perfectly. Now, what does Rabbi Yossi do with this pasuk of Rabbi Yehuda, fellas? Right? L'chayra, he has a pasuk saying mefurish that a ger is called a kahal. Rabbi Yosi chuka achas lefsika inyan. Read the pasuk, guys. Hakahol chuka achas lachem. There's one chayk for the kahal, and then there's the ger. So the chuka achas goes ahead and separates the kahal from the ger. So the ger is not called kahal. Memela, he could marry a mamsa because he's not one. Okay, geschmack. Now we had the next law was the law of the kohenes, right? Echad ger, the echad eved meshachor, the chalol mutarim b'kohenes. Messiah leila Rav, it's be a riot to Rav. Dom Rav Yudam Rav, lehuzrul k'sheiros leinasei lipsulim. They didn't warn k'sheiros a bas kohen to marry to psulim. Guys, those are apostle for the kahuna. A kahenis can't marry a mamzer. In other words, there's two types of things. There's pasal kahuna and there's pasal kahal. Amoin, moyav, mamzer is pasal kahal. Chalol, Evid Meshuchra, Giyoris is a psul for the kahuna. Le'osa bas kohen le'psulim the kahuna. Right? Don't say not psulim the kahal, psulim the kahuna. Very good. Okay. Darish Rab Zera, b'mechuza, ger muta b'mamzeres. A ger is muta in the mamzeres. Now, ragmu kuli alma besor gaihu. It seemed to be sukkis, and Rabbi Zera announced in a place where there are many gerim, by the way, you're permitted to marry a mamzer. Needless to say, it did not go over well, and they bombed him with what? With esroigim. They bombed him with esroigim. Amarava, miyika de darish milsa ki hai beduchta de shchichi giyori. Is anyone who could possibly go ahead and teach this in a place with the giyorim that it should go over better? So darish Rava b'mechuza, Rava in the same place. In the same place, he delivered it better. Ger mutta b'kohenes. A ger is mutta to marry a bas kohen. Oh, what did they do? Tayanu b'shiroi. They addressed him in silk. In other words, wow, I'm a ger and I can marry you out of kohenes. Wow. Hadadarish lahu ger mutta mamzeres. Then he put the hammer down. A ger is what? A ger is mutta mamzeres. Amruloi. I've seen this on the Kamaisa. You just lost favor from the first thing you taught us, right? That we can marry into the Guna. Amalahu. No, the Tavalchu Avdalahu. I did you a favor. So, in other words, I think this is a great lima, definitely bloggable material. How do you deliver a message? It's all in the packaging. Rav Zera delivered the package. He got felt the esroigim. The way Rabbi delivered the package, he go ahead and first he told him the positive. They dressed him in silk, and then he told them the story. So it's always in the packaging how one delivers the message. It's a very geshmaka diak from Gemara. Yes.
Good news, bad news. Always take the good news first.
Yeah. I'm a Jet fan. There's never good news. The hilchasa ger muta b'kohenes. The halacha is the ger is muta b'kohenes, umuta b'mamzeres, and muta b'mamzeres. Muta b'kohenes. Why? Like huzru the ksheres linasli psulim. Bas kohen is not muzer to go ahead and marry what? Marry psulim. Umuta b'mamzeres k'Reb Yosi, and the muta in mamzeres what? Like Reb Yosi. Okay. Elu hein shtuki. Who are shtukim? That kol shemakas, as they know who their mother is, they don't know who their father is. Amarava. The var Torah shtuki kasha. Really, a shtuki should be kasha to marry anybody. In other words, there should not be any question whatsoever. She should be mutter to marry anyone. My timer. Roiv kasher metzla. Umiyutim psulin etzla. Rashi. Let's see Rashi. Roiv kasher metzla. For first wide line. Roiv kasher metzla. Again, you know the father is. You don't know the mother is. You don't know the father. The key in the makunas imai. Since we recognize the mother, the panuyahi. Now, guys, this is shtuki only comes from a mother that was unwed. If it was an Eishes Ish, then you really got to worry about mamzeris, right? Guys, if an Eishes Ish, then you have to worry about mamzeris. Again, Eishes Ish, mamzeris is only when the union rechayiv krisis or mises bezdin. In this case, that's not the case. This is a penuya. This is an unwed girl. It's an unwed girl. And roiv oilam kshem etzla. And majority of the world would be permitted to be with her. She'ina roiv mamzerim ukroivim shavad mehem mamzer. That the only way for a penuya to have a child that's a mamzer would be if it's a mamzer. She was with a mamzer, or B, she was with a karev, she was with a relative. Most of the world are not mamzerim, and most of the world are not kroivim. So the majority of the world, what would be permitted to her? Good. And we paskin what? Eved Havlad is kosher. It's not a mamzer. So Memela, the Roiv tells us that what? It's good. So in other words, so if you go after Roiv, there should be no reason to say a shtuki can't marry the cow. Good. So let's see the Gemara again. Amarava Dvar Torah shtuki kosher. My timer Roiv, the majority of the world ksher etzla. Umiyuta psulim and etzla. There's a minority that's puzzle. Minority would be mamzerim and or kroivim relatives. The asli inhu now, guys. What's the halacha of Roiv? Guys, what's the halacha of Roiv? When you say of Roiv, when you think of Roiv, you think of 10 butcher shops in a city. 9 sell kosher meat, and 1 sells treifa meat. You find it in the street. What do we say? Kol de parish, anything that's separate, miruba parish. So it's kosher. If you find it in the kfua, in the place, the store itself, then it's mechza. So over here, if the Roiv came to her, the Roiv of the world is kosher, correct? So call the parish from Ruba parish. If she went to them, then you'd have the Allah of kfua. But if the Roiv went to her, then the chayra, there should be kosher. So therefore, call the parish from Ruba parish. My Yomer, what are you going to say? Dilma Ozla Ihi Lagabayu, she went to him. But the Torah says, 1 second, Lo Yava Mamzer, a Mamzer can't come in. So in other words, you can say it's a suffix now, right? And it's a suffix, you don't have Roiv. Because what does the Torah say? Lo Yavai Mamzer, Mamzer Vadai Hud Lo Yavai, Mamzer suffix Yavai Bekal. Vadai Hud Lo Yavai, Bekal suffix Yavai. Matama Meshtuki Puzzle, Gzeira, Shema Yisa Achoisam Ivai. What's the half meaning of the Gemara is that he may marry his sister. Since you know who the father is, you don't know, maybe somebody else, that this guy was with somebody else, and maybe the Gemara, Shtuki Shaitekes La Yisa, a Shtuki should not be a Shaitekes. Why? Maybe it's a sister. Maybe the father of the Shtuki is the father of the Shaitekes. Says Shemi Yisa Chaysim Yavim. So a guy should marry, if you don't know who the father is by the male, and you don't know who the father is by the female, they should be able to remarry, and we know they could, because let's be chayshed that they have the same father that the brother and sister. Says Kolki Hani Mizani Viosli, right? This guy is such a everything when we had this one novel, right? So that you don't say. Says okay, what about this one? So Bas Shukis La Yisa, anyone who is the daughter of a Shukis La Yisa. Shema Yisa Achaisam Yavid. In this case, he married the Shtukis, right? And he had a child, and maybe the Shtuki is the brother of the child of the union. Notice, he wasn't Mizana over here. He married a woman legally, she was a Shtukis, and maybe the child that he has is the sister of the boy. Says Ella, says Merlish, Ella, if you say is marrying a Chaisam Yavid is Leshchicha. It's not Shayach, and therefore Hachanami Leshchicha. Ella, what's the reason what is the reason that you don't marry a shtuki? It's not halachic reason. Ella mala asa b'yuchsin. It's simply a rabbinic a gzeira that we made a mila b'yuchsin to stay away from this tainted lineage where we don't know who the father is. But it's not a shema gzeira, maybe marry a sister. We're not chayish for that. We're not chayish, maybe you marry a sister. V'amar Rava, Devar Torah, Asufi kosher. But Torah Asufi is kosher. Now, Asufi, you don't go ahead, you don't know who the mother is or the father. You find them in the street. My timer, Ashes ish bebaila toilet, but you find them in the street. Now, watch. If it's a man, what are you going to say? Why would this child be in the street? Why would it be abandoned? Why would a person abandon the child? Now, if the mother was an Ashes ish, and she has concern that it's a mamza. That's what the concern is, right? It's a mamza. She would throw it in the street. She'll say that my husband was the father of the child, right? Says no. She's an Eshes. She'll say, guys, we say Roiv Bilis go after the husband. Mayika miuta. What's the miut? Arusois. Arusais is an Eshes that didn't live with a husband yet, right? That period of 12 months. Umiuta shahalach ba'aleim dinas hayom, and a miut where the wife has been away, if her husband's been away for a while, and therefore you'd know that if she's pregnant, it was from somebody else, that's the miyat. On arusa, if she's pregnant, you have a problem, right? Because she's a married woman and she's not living with her husband yet. If the husband's overseas and she's pregnant, then you got a problem, right? That's the miyat, right? Kivin the ikka penuya, you have she's a penuya. There are women who are penuyos. In other words, we're playing it off, guys. In other words, watch. If she's an Eshish Ish, guys, look at me. If she's an Eshish Ish, let's go through the Stadim. If she's an Eshish Ish and her husband's around, she's not abandoning the child. She's not abandoning the child. Why should you abandon a child? If the child's a mamza, so she'll cover it up. So, no. And if she has, let's say you can't have that. Let's say she is an Eshish Ish, but her husband's not around because she's overseas. Or she's an Eshish Ish, but she's not living with her husband yet because she's an Arusa. That's the miyat, right? So those are the two tzadim over there. Good. Now, what's the other tzad? We're going through the possibilities of the lineage of this child. That's one tzad. If the mother that abandoned was an Eshish Ish. Now, what are you going to say the other way? Kivin the ikka penuya. There are many women who are not married. V'ikkanami the machmas ra'avin, right? And there are many women who would abandon a child simply because they can't sustain the child monetarily. It's a shas of ra'avin, of hunger. So now palga, it's half and half. So now your suffix is, I just made your suffix half and half, right? You have your suffix eshish one way, other way, penuya one way, other way. Mamza badei hud lo yavai ha mamza suffix yavai bekal vadei hud lo yavai ha bekal suffix yavai. Umatam amru asufi pasol. Again, we go through the same dialogue. Shema yisa achaysa miyaviv. El miyata asufi asufis la yisa, and asufi, a male that didn't have any parents, they was abandoned, shouldn't marry a girl who was abandoned. Shema yisa b'achaysa bei meyaviv bei meimai. In this case, you don't know who the mother is, the father is. Kolhani shadi v'azli basa sufi la yisa shema yisa achaysa el l'shchicha hachanami l'shchicha el mayla asa b'yuchsin. They made a mayla b'yuchsin. Okay, it's a very, very interesting Gemara. It's a very famous Gemara, and I couldn't let it go by. So thank you for the Mesifta. Very, very interesting Shaila over here. We say Suffolk deraisa is l'chumra. You have a Suffolk deraisa is l'chumra, correct? The Shitas Harambam is that Suffolk deraisa is l'chumra is only a din derabanan. The Shitas Rambam is that Suffolk deraisa we go l'chumra is only midaraisa. It's really what mutter. Suffolk midaraisa l'chumra that we go l'chumra is rabbinic in nature. Good. So that necessary. The kash is therefore why do we need a pasuk to go ahead and matter the mamzer? Mamzer vadai, mamzer Suffolk. Mamza vadai, v'lei mamza suffik. Freg the Welt on the Rambam. According to the Rambam, that suffik the rice l'chum is the Rabbanon. Memela, I know the suffik mamza is permitted mid the araisa. Why would I need a pasuk to say that what? That it's muta. I know it's muta. That's the kash on the Rambam. The kash on the Rambam. Now there is a Rashba. The Sifta quotes the source. The Rashba in the Taras Abayis writes that this is the Rambam source. In other words, Lo Yava Mazah B'Kal Hashem, that Vadai Sufik, this is the source L'Kol HaTorah Kula, that a suffix is permitted. In other words, it's not limiting that din to mamzer. It extends from there. Just like by mamzer, the suffix is muta, hu adin b'chol HaTorah Kula, a suffix is muta, and that itself is only deraisa. So the Rashba says, this is the source. This is the source, okay? That's the Rashba's explanation of the Rambam, but the kasha is a very famous kasha, and there's many terutzim. I'll share with you two. The first teretz, again, what's the kasha? Again, if the Rambam holds that suffix deraisa is mutta, why would I need a pasuk to tell me a mamza is mutta? I know it's mutta. Good. Says the Shev Shmaitza in Shmaitza Aleph Perik Beis. Says very gewaldig. Hey guys, I'll give you two suffix mamzerim. One is the one we just said. I don't know the lineage of this child. I don't know who the father is. If it's a Sufi, I don't know who the father or the mother is. I'm not sure the lineage. That's a suffix. What about this case? You have a vadai mamza, and you have a vadai kasha, and a man marries one of them. Can they stay married? In other words, over here you have a suffix, but you have an isser there. You know there's an isser over there. It's not like one piece of meat and I don't know the status of the meat. It's like I have two pieces of meat and I know one of them is chaylev. So over here I know one of them is a mamzer. The chiddush over here of lo yavai mamzer b'kal Hashem mamzer vadam v'safik. Even in that case, says the Shmaitza, where you have the vadai mamzer there and the suffix is created through a taruvis when you mix with another woman, even there will say that what if the person marries that person, they don't have to leave. You would say the suffix that when did they stay together? You don't know exactly the lineages. That's one suffix. But what happens when you know vadai there was a mamzer here, and now you just know where you don't know where it is? The Kiddush says the Shmaitz over here that even in this case where you do know that it was there, nonetheless, that's what the pasuk's teaching me. Because the Rambam in other places that we say suffix deraisa is the chumrah, is the rabbanon is only with not kavei el iser. Where you are kavei the iser, then he doesn't say it.
I think it was filled with the two filled with the nazar.
It goes down one or the other, right? If they come at the same time and they ask the question, right? Same time. So Geshmak, guys, here's what he's saying. The Kiddush over here is even though the Rambam would admit in a normal case, guys, you have a piece of chaylev and one gets mixed together, you eat one, it's mutter. No, he doesn't say it's mutter over there. But here, Mama said, okay, that's the Shmaitza. And the Pri Chadash, he says Geshmak also. What about chazaka? We know there's such a thing, chazaka, that we're miming on a chazaka. So let's say a woman is divorced, but you don't know if she's divorced. Throw a get, suffer car of law, you don't know if she's divorced, right? She gets married. What's the case of the child? Suffolk mamza. What's the chazaka say? She was neshish. So even in that case, where the chazaka says she's an neshish, the pasuk Yohi mamza b'kal Hashem will state that this child is mutter. That's the Pri Chadash. So in other words, what the pasuk over here is saying, according to these gedoli achroinim, is that what? That even in a normal scenario where usually would say it's asar, here we'll say it's mutter. Either according to Shmaitza, where you say where you have vadai, the is there, or according to Pri Chadash, when you go after the chazaka. Very geshmak, guys, no? Very geshmak. I mean, it's a very, very nice. It's good you say it. It's hashy stuff. I give geshmak. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amar Rava bar Rav Huna. Matzah moil. Now we find this kid. You don't know the status of the kid, right? But matzah moil. If you find that the kid what is moil, ain by mishum esufi. You be rest assured that this is a kosher child. Because what? Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't bother going to the tircha of maling the kid. In other words, these are different scenarios where we're able to go ahead and give an idea of what this kid is. Good. Mishalte hadamaya. Let's say you find its limbs are sometimes the kids are born get krachin. That means that they're not their limbs are not they're dislocated, so they have to straighten out the limbs. If you find with its limbs straightened out, ain boy mishum sufi. Then you have to worry about it. Sufi, he wouldn't bother. Shayif mashcha. If you find it anointed with oil, umola kuchla, it has eye makeup on. That seems they put something on the eyes. Rami chumrei. If you find that Rami chumrei. If you find that they had refuahs, they would tie certain things around the child. Toli piska, if you have a kameya of ksav on the child, the toli kimo, it has suspended on the child as a kameya of herbs. Ain by mishum asufe. In this case, you'd be rest assured that it's not. No one's going to. If it's a real mamza, no one's going through the trouble of going ahead and doing this. Toli bidikli. Let's say you find the kid hanging in a tree. You find the kid left in a tree. Listen, it's better. Some people find them in garbage dumps, right? You find it hanging in a tree. Now, if a chaya is able to jump and get it, it means the person didn't care enough. But the person put it high enough, right? Then you don't have to worry about sufi because the child, again, for whatever reason, we're going to say that the pasuk that it's a suffix. We don't know. But if the person went to an extent to go ahead, we won't have to come on to that. In other words, you won't have to come on to the pasuk to mata in a sufi because it's a suffix. In this case, there's no suffix. We'd say this child is a full-fledged kosher child, or else the mother would not go to the extent, or the father who's hiding the child would not go to the extent to keep it in a safe situation in the height of the tree. Okay. Zardasa samicha lamasa. If it's a zardasa, Rashi says it's a sorb tree that's next to the city. Now it seems to be that the shadim, 60 different types of shadim hung out in these trees. So if you're going to put the child in that tree, yesh ba mishum asufi means they don't care about the kid. Then lav ain ba mishum asufi. If not, what? Bekanishta semichta lamasa. Remember, the Beis Knesset was but not next to the city. Have a shchicha barabim ain ba mishum asufi, because you're not going to have what, the shadim there. Then lav yesh ba mishum asufi, again because obviously they don't care about the safety of the child. Amar Mema says Amema, high pira decisively, this pit excuse the pun, this pit of pits. We had this in Eruvin, I think. They used to have these pits where they put for animals, they would put the date pits in there, and they fill it up. If you're going to put it over there, then you have to worry about a sufi, right? You have to worry about a sufi, because again, I would assume that mazikim are found in this place. Right? As charifasa din ahara, you find it by the channel of the river where people pass by. Because you want the ship is going to pass by, you want them to find the child. Pishrei pishari yesh by mishum asufi. But if the place where the snow melts, then they don't care about the child. Sidei rishus harabim ain ba mishum asufi, because the rishus harabim, by putting rishus harabim, they want the child to get trampled on. Yesh ba mishum asufi. Amar Rava shani ra'avain, in the years of famine, ain by mishum asufi. If you find the child, there's no din of asufi. Now, when did Rava, which one of the previous dinim is Rava referring to when he said this din? If he's saying when he found in Rishus Harabim, I did the Shnei Raven Kotale, just because it's a year of famine, you're going to throw into Rishus Harabim and kill the kid. Then obviously, there's no difference. If you find in Rishus Harabim, it doesn't make a difference that what the situations like food wise. The Ella must be at Sida Rishus Harabim. The Mayir Shein Robin, I feel a blush Shein Robin. In other words, Sida Rishus Harabim said there's no din of a sufi. So in other words, that shouldn't be a barometer whether it's a year of famine or not famine. If it's going under Rishus Harabim, Mamarashah. If it's in the middle of Rishus Harabim, so you're trying to kill the kid. If it's a Sida Rishus Harabim, then the Imam Sufi without the Shani Rabin. Ella Kiyatma the Rabbi did not say in the previous Gemara, it was a statement of the Atzmai. Ella Kiyatma the Rabbi Dam Rav Yehuda Marav Abba Rav Yehuda Bar Zvidi Amarav Kol Zman Shebeshuk, the whole time it's in the street, Aviv Imay Ne'emanim Alav. Right? As long as it's in the street, the father and mother believe to come along and say it's our child. Nesaf min hashuk, but once it's taken away from the street, and already it has the Ne'emanim Alav, why my timer? Amarava Hayel V'Yatzel of Shema Sufi. Since already the Shema Sufi was given to this child, there's no taking it back. So Amar Rav, and Rav says, however, Ubeshani Ravain Afa Pisha Naisim min hashuk Aviv Imay Ne'emanim Alav. If it's a year that of the possibility of Shani Ravin, this is where he said his din, then what? Then you would be believed. Then you would be believed. Why? Because they put it in the street because of the financial reasons. There are three people who are believed right away. In other words, they're believed only right away and not after this man. They only believe right away, not after this man. Eluhain, Asufi, again, is miyad if you find it in the street. Chaya, a midwife, who poiteres chaverusa, and someone who goes ahead and pata chavera from tumas nida. Now the Gemara explains each case. Asufi hadamar, and we just said the case, right? If it's you find it immediately, and it's not a year of Ravain, then they're believed. But once it's taken in from the street, they're not believed. Chaya, who's giving birth to a kid, and it says a woman gives birth to twins, and the Chaya nemenes leimar. Zeh Yatzer Rishon, and it's the Bechar. Zeh Yatzer Sheni. The Chai is believed to go ahead and establish who the Bechar is. The Medama Mamurim, when is the Chai believed? Is Shlo Yatzasa, if she didn't go out, V'chazra came back. Avol Yatzer V'chazra Ein Nemanis. Reveleza Aimer Chuchsaku Al Aimda. If she's muchzik that she's standing there and she won't leave, Nemenis. Then Lav Ein Nemenis. Might be Nayu have a difference. B. It could be Nayu the Ahada Appa. The difference would be one. If she goes ahead and turns around. According to the Tanakama, right, since she's there, you'd be believed. Again, the Tanakama says you only not believed when you go in and out. As long as you're there, even if you turn around, you'd be believed. According to Rebbe Lazar, it's got to be only you got to watch. And if you turn around, you won't be believed. Okay? That's the difference between the two. What's the difference? What's the case of she's going to pata from Nida? That none. Shloisha nashim shahayu yeshenes b'mita achas. You have 3 women that were sleeping in the same bed, and behold, they look at the sheet. V'nimtza dam tachas achas mehem. You find dam, kul and tameis, they're all tummy. You don't know where it came from. Bodcha achas mehem. If one of them goes ahead and checks v'nimtza tameya, and she finds that she has dam, then he tameya, she alone is tamei for kul and taharos. And when is this? Rav Chisda, provided she bodka atzmoi kishir veset. Kishir veset means miyad. The time that it takes, that it's right that the bedika cloth is right there, and you could be boidik right away. But that's only miyad, only miyad. Tarabanan. The menes chayaloimer ze koyin v'ze levi ze nesin v'ze mamzer. You have a woman; she's working in a hospital, and they're busy, and they have what? There's what koyin there, and a levi's there. You got a nesin, you got a mamzer. Remember, she got the kit and caboodle. You got the across the board. She's believed to say this is the koyin, this is the levi, this is the sin, this is mamzer. Medum amurim, when she's believed, shleikorola shem error, provided that there wasn't a question about the lineage of this child in the street that he was a mamzer. Aval korola era. Once already the rumor began that this child's a mamzer, then ain't a man is not believed. Now era the man. 1 second. Ilemi era the chad. It was a rumor. Only one person said it. For Amar Rabbi Yochanan era pachs mishnayim. You need at least 2 people to create a rumor. El must be be'aritrei. Okay, 2 people. So therefore, that's when she's not believed. But 1 person she would believe. You always say, I'll tell you, be'ira ach, 1 person. V'chiyam Rabbi Yochanan era pachas mishnayim. Hanimili hecha de isya cheskas de kashas. That's when what? When there's chazaka of kashrus, then to go ahead and when you establish the chazaka of kashrus, then you don't need 2 people. Then you need 2 people to go against the chazaka. In a place where cheskas kashrus, chadnami nehimna, when the brisa, let's say she has this spot doesn't have a cheskas kashrus, and now an era goes in this child, then that child that the era would be a good era. It'll be a good room. Okay, but the Gemara goes off tangentially to discuss something else. Mazel tov, Arya Winery on the